I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. Hey, all my distracted friends, what is going on out there? You focused on hitting the play button here on Overcoming Distractions. So congratulate yourself. Hope you're having a great week. And as I've said from time to time, just a quick reminder, hopefully you're getting some time to do things for yourself and hang out with friends and do what you want to do. Take a walk, hit the gym, plant some grass, whatever it is, all right? Super important to be doing things for yourself, because I talk to many of you and sometimes that becomes difficult. So make sure you're doing something for yourself. All right, so let's get to today's quick conversation, if you will. When I work one-on-one with people, I always advocate for them to do a few things to kind of improve and thrive with adult ADHD. Some of them are burned out. And one of them is sticking up for themselves. And that's not a schoolyard fighting type of thing. It's doing what we need to do to put our best interests a little more forward than maybe we have historically. And maybe by not doing it, we've gotten ourselves into a situation where we're working our asses off and maybe we actually do feel burned out. So it's also understanding our wants and needs. It's when to say yes and when to say no. It's getting what we need to do our jobs effectively. If you're an entrepreneur, self-employed, it's getting what you need from clients and others that may be involved. Now, some of us are, quite frankly, people pleasers. Some of us know it, and we've become accustomed to not getting our needs met and, quite frankly, bowing down to other people's feelings. Warranted or not, we seem to just not put ourselves first. And burnout, while super complicated for everybody, can be summed up by putting other people's feelings, needs, and wants above ours consistently, week, month, year after year. And when I meet with people about this and we talk about that unsustainable work environment, many I have found have just not spoken up when necessary. And maybe we're afraid of perceived consequences. We're just not comfortable in those situations. And maybe we just haven't tested the word no as simple, in maybe simple, non-threatening ways. So this gets us stressed out. We're working all hours of the night and weekends to catch up. We begin to dislike our work, the people around us. We get resentful. And ultimately, we get burned out. And this is why I try to be as clear as I can about being assertive versus aggressive. And that's what we're going to discuss in a few minutes. We're going to break this down because I'm always advocating for people to be assertive where appropriate. Aggressive will probably get you nowhere. Being assertive, and I might add maybe a little diplomatic, just might get you what you need to resolve some of your challenges. And I am abundantly aware of some of the emotional issues some adults with ADHD have, and monitoring our reactions and overreactions, quite frankly. And that's something we need to consistently work at over and over again throughout the years, is managing those reactions. That is a much deeper podcast. I know we've talked about managing emotions. You can go back and find some of those podcasts with some of the experts that we've had on the podcast. But I just want to go through today some of the differences of being aggressive and assertive, and why we need to take the path of assertiveness in many of the situations we encounter. So let's talk about communication. Huge topic when it comes to the workplace, our jobs, our careers, working with bosses, clients, coworkers, you name it. Now, aggressive communication involves, a forceful, almost hostile behavior. It disregards the feelings and opinions of others. It can include shouting, sarcasm, interrupting. It can also include silence if we're just super pissed off, right? And again, I know many of us, we said interrupting, and many of us with ADHD do interrupt because we just need to we need to get our thoughts out. Some of us because we'll just forget, and we just need to get it out. But in a workplace, say in a conflict situation, it might not serve us well at all. So we need to be conscious of that. And as you probably figured out, that is pretty much a one-way conversation, right? Being aggressive is pretty close to just kind of bullying your way to get what you want. So being assertive, on the other hand, assertive communication is confident, it's clear, it's direct, it's kind as well, and we can still respect the thoughts and feelings of other people. Being assertive involves expressing your needs, your opinions, and boundaries in a respectful manner. And I tell people, sometimes you just need to speak up and ask for the things that you are wanting but didn't have the confidence to ask for. And I always suggest to people I work with individually that if you're not comfortable being assertive, you need to kind of start slow and maybe work on those small asks. Get a little confidence under your belt and build up your more critical asks. My advice is, if you're feeling the need to speak up about something, and no matter how small it is, maybe just practice pausing for a few minutes and even rehearse what you want to say if you're feeling uncomfortable, and just maybe see if it's coming off as aggressive. So one thing we talked about on the podcast, we're talking about workplace accommodations. This might have been a couple of years ago now. But one thing we talked about was the way we kind of worded things on accommodations. So, for example, saying I need XYZ might come off as slightly aggressive. Saying I could do my job better if I had XYZ, or I could do a much more thorough job or be more productive, etc., for the organization. That to me is a little more assertive and diplomatic, rather than maybe storming into your boss's office or human resources and saying, I need. So it's just looking at those words. All right. All right. Next, let's talk about quick bullet points on conflict resolution. If you're aggressive, people often escalate conflicts and it could resort to personal attacks, manipulation, that type of thing. Some of us with ADHD can get this way because we have to be right most of the time. Does that ring a bell to anybody? And we end up coming off as aggressive. And that's that piece of kind of self-awareness. So, and there's a whole podcast about those executive functions and managing our emotions. I've done podcasts before. We're going to continue to do that because I know many of us, we have that challenge. So when it comes to conflict, when we're assertive, we try and resolve those conflicts calmly, constructively. We focus on finding mutually beneficial solutions, and we're open to compromise. Maybe we should tell our politicians about compromise, right? I don't care what country you're in, it's just getting to that point. Let's not go there. All right. So we can certainly speak our mind, and we should, but we need to understand that, if we're in some type of conflict, even if it's like a tiny conflict, being diplomatic, tactful is a far more effective strategy. I'm not saying we resort back to people pleasing and putting other people's feelings and wants and needs before us. But I think you can somewhat get what you want without being aggressive when it comes to conflict. Let's talk about reactions to feedback, because I know many of us have challenges with that. If you're getting feedback, people who might have an aggressive tendency become defensive, hostile when receiving that feedback. We see it as a personal attack. And because many of us grew up with those bad report cards and maybe a sketchy work history, we can become aggressive and angry when getting feedback. And once again, this is an area that is there's a lot more to it. And as you know, I've told you a million times, I'm not a therapist. I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD. But many of you probably had that history of the bad report cards, sitting in detention, being reprimanded by teachers, and maybe you got fired. And that could be kind of a source of our negative reaction to feedback. But when we're assertive and we're in a situation, we become more open to feedback. We view it as an opportunity, as hard as some of us may view that as. We try and listen, we reflect on that feedback, and then we take the appropriate action. And I think when we take a different tone on that feedback, if we know that something isn't right or correct, or you just know the feedback isn't helpful, then we can always be assertive in speaking up, once again, to stick up for ourselves, again, in a respectful way. And that's the difference between assertive and aggressive and not exploding. So I did this in my PR firm. Obviously, I couldn't yell at clients. They were paying me. But lots of times, and I hate to say this, that there were clients that just thought they knew better than I did. And and I hate to sound arrogant, but they hired me because of my years of public relations expertise, and they were going to get it. And I would disagree where I thought it was necessary, because it was also my own personal reputation. And when it comes to public relations, you can't just do stupid things and try and get away with it. So reputation is key for everybody involved. So real quick, and that leads to kind of respect for others. If you're aggressive, you disregard the thoughts and the feelings and the boundaries of other people. And I just said, yes, we need to put our kind of our needs and wants and what have you first, but you can't disregard those of other people. But when we can be assertive in that, then we can kind of demonstrate that respect and the boundaries, and at the same time advocate for your own needs and wants and feelings and things that help you do your job appropriately. So, okay, relationships. This is a huge topic. We could break this down all kinds of ways, but I think, as you probably know, that aggressive behavior in any type of relationship, whether it's work or vendors or clients or your boss, coworkers, and even at home, it can create that hostile environment. It can lead to resentment, a little bit of fear, lack of trust, especially on coworkers and your boss. And I don't have to tell you that when it comes to personal relationships in ADHD, there are some rather stunning statistics about ADHD and divorce. And I'm guessing that's the aggressive nature of some conversations families have when there's ADHD in the room, right? That is certainly part of it. But assertive behavior kind of fosters that positive relationship. It's built on that mutual respect, that clear communication, and hopefully over time it does promote some collaboration and some teamwork. We often talk about in the burnout world, the need for psychological safety in the workplace, and that's where you can view differences and concerns and what have you without fear of consequences, and over time that does promote that collaboration. And quite frankly, when a team can sit in a room and disagree and come up with solutions, that's a great environment. So. But speaking up at work, at home, it builds that effective communication muscle, and really over time can help build that trust in relationships. So let's talk about kind of the long-term piece of this. Aggression could yield short-term results, but it often creates long-term problems, undermines productivity, and morale, and honestly, no one is going to want to deal with you much longer if you're aggressive. If you are aggressive, you'll become ineffective, and ultimately someone nobody wants to speak to, or work with. Sure, you may get your way, but eventually that's going to backfire on you. When you decide you're going to take an assertive approach to communication and problem solving and everything else, it becomes far more effective in the long run. It encourages open communication, problem solving, and cooperation with coworkers and others. And when you are assertive, also make it clear that while you're trying to get your point across and needs met, you still value a safe and productive conversation or interaction. And over time, that is where being assertive and respectful is going to help you in the long run. So I can tell you, when people yelled at me when I owned my restaurant, it got them nowhere. If they were an asshole, I didn't want them as a customer. And I certainly didn't want them treating my employees that way. When they came up and said, hey, their food wasn't cooked properly and they were nice about it, I went out of my way to make it right. And because that's what happens, Because guess what? Mistakes happen. So, anywho, all right. I hope this kind of clears up why you can be assertive and effective at the same time, and be a trusted and respected person in the workplace and at home. Because I know those of us with ADHD sometimes have a difficult time speaking up, but if we can just get even a little more assertive and being tactful about it and speak up for our needs and wants, you might just be surprised at what you accomplish. So, all right, gang. If you need to hang out with me and work some stuff out, you're a busy professional, maybe you're having a little bit of trouble kind of getting out of your own way and navigating the business world and life and juggling everything, hit overcomingdistractions.com. Hit that button right on the homepage, book a 15-minute Zoom chat with me, and let's see if we're a good match. All right, as I say, we'll catch you next time.